India's long history of facing hostile neighbors, insurgencies, and hybrid threats has made it one of the world's most experienced practitioners of asymmetric warfare, the art of countering militarily stronger adversaries through unconventional means. From Kashmir to the northeast, and from counter-proxy wars to high-altitude special operations against China, India has accumulated a playbook of lessons in resilience, adaptability, and innovation that few nations can match. Asymmetric warfare refers to conflicts in which opposing forces possess vastly different military capabilities, leading the weaker side to rely on unconventional tactics, such as guerrilla warfare, cyber attacks, disinformation, and proxy forces, to offset the superior strength of the adversary. For India, asymmetry is not simply a tactical choice, but a structural reality. Facing two nuclear-armed neighbors, China and Pakistan, with distinct threat profiles, India must prepare for both high-intensity conventional war and low-intensity, long-duration insurgencies simultaneously. Since independence in 1947, India has fought or managed over a dozen insurgencies, ranging from the Naga and Mizo movements in the northeast to Maoist insurgencies in central India and separatist conflicts in Punjab and Jammu and Kashmir. Each campaign has deepened India's understanding of irregular warfare and produced distinct operational models. The Indian armed forces learned early that brute force alone cannot win asymmetric wars. While military operations can destroy insurgent infrastructure, lasting peace demands addressing the political and socio-economic roots of discontent. Accordingly, India developed a hearts and minds approach, calibrated force combined with political reconciliation, economic development, and psychological operations. For instance, in Mizoram during the 1970s and 80s, peace came through an accord that mixed amnesty, development, and reintegration. In contrast, in Kashmir, India's counterinsurgency has required the simultaneous use of force and dialogue, with the army maintaining high operational readiness while supporting civic programs like Operation Sadbhavna to win local trust. Military mastery in counterinsurgency. The Indian Army's doctrine emphasizes small unit operations dominance of terrain, near zero collateral damage, and seamless coordination between security and civil agencies. Studies by the Center for Land Warfare Studies, or CLAWS, describe India's approach as manpower-intensive but tactically adaptive, relying on agile junior leadership, local intelligence networks, community engagement, and selective use of special forces. Rather than overwhelming firepower, India prioritizes area domination through sustained infantry presence and intelligence-led operations. Troops operate within a constantly evolving counter-terror grid that denies insurgents space to operate. The human rights-conscious conduct of operations has steadily improved the Army's moral credibility, especially when you compare it with the more intrusive approaches used in other global conflicts such as Iraq or Afghanistan. Special Forces, silent architects of asymmetry. India's elite special forces are really the spear tip of its asymmetric capabilities. Units such as the Para Special Forces, Marcos, Garud Commandos, and the Special Frontier Force, or SFF, conduct covert and unconventional operations across diverse terrains, from deserts to mountains and jungles. The SFF, which was originally raised to operate behind Chinese lines, specializes in high-altitude guerrilla warfare. The 2020 Ladakh standoff again demonstrated the SFF's value as they captured critical heights near the Pangong Tso before negotiations ensued. The Marcos, trained for amphibious assaults and counter-terrorism, have fought in operations ranging from the 1988 Maldives intervention to the 2008 Mumbai terrorist attacks. The Para Special Forces units, meanwhile, have executed cross-border surgical strikes into Pakistani territory, illustrating India's shift from reactive to proactive deterrence. These forces are trained not only for combat, but also for training allied militaries, intelligence gathering, and humanitarian operations, illustrating a full-spectrum competence typical of mature asymmetric warriors. India has faced decades of proxy war from Pakistan through state-sponsored militancy and from China via territorial encroachments and gray zone tactics. To manage this multidimensional threat, India has evolved a multi-layered hybrid warfare doctrine, encompassing defense, diplomacy, technology, and psychology. Against China's larger military-industrial base, India cannot compete symmetrically in raw numbers. Instead, technological asymmetry, leveraging intelligent systems and precision strikes, is the chosen equalizer. Projects like the Ghatak stealth drone, supersonic missile-assisted release of torpedo, or SMART and combat air teaming systems highlight India's focus on designing force multipliers that impose disproportionate costs on aggressors. These technologies extend deterrence into new domains. Stealth drones for surprise deep strikes, torpedo-armed missiles for anti-submarine warfare, and autonomous air combat systems that multiply the effectiveness of existing aircraft. Civil-military integration and resilience, a defining feature of India's asymmetric success, is its civil-military synergy. Unlike in many developing nations, India's democratic institutions and military professionalism coexist in a calibrated balance. Political leaders define objectives, while the armed forces implement them within lawful boundaries and with social legitimacy. The Army's civic engagement programs in conflict zones, building infrastructure, delivering healthcare, and providing education, serve as both counterinsurgency tools and nation-building mechanisms. This duality of combat and compassion reinforces India's legitimacy domestically and internationally. The public's trust in the military, consistently the highest of any national institution, gives counterinsurgency operations a rare moral foundation. Doctrinal and strategic lessons from India's experience hold real significance for the world. No country has fought as many internal asymmetric wars over such a prolonged period within a functioning democracy. This has yielded lessons of global relevance. First, India has demonstrated the effectiveness of restrained, intelligence-driven operations over, indiscriminate violence. Second, success in asymmetric warfare really hinges on population consent. India's efforts to balance coercion with development remain instructive. Third, Indian forces adapt lessons from each conflict, refining doctrine through real-world trials rather than just theoretical exercises. And fourth, India's use of drones, surveillance, and human intelligence in difficult terrains such as Kashmir and the Northeast provides a blueprint for others facing, similar challenges. So, why exactly is India such an expert in asymmetry? Well, India's expertise arises not merely from necessity, but from institutional learning born of diversity and endurance. First, simultaneous threats from Pakistan and China have forced India to develop multi-dimensional asymmetric doctrines. Second, civilian oversight has demanded humane, accountable methods of warfare that are actually compatible with democratic legitimacy. Third, India's pluralistic society really trains its institutions to manage subnational conflicts with political sensitivity, rather than relying on pure militarism. And finally, decades of continuous insurgencies have ensured an unbroken refinement of tactics, intelligence coordination, and adaptive command structures. In conclusion, India's experience shows that, asymmetric warfare is not merely the weapon of the weak, but actually the strategy of the wise. Through its blend of calibrated force political dialogue and technological innovation, India has truly mastered the art of waging war without losing legitimacy. That resilience, restraint, and adaptability, those are the true weapons of asymmetric success. Thanks for watching. If you found the video insightful, hit the like button and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.